So this was sort of my original idea. I think the essence of it is just the idea of a chair or something that we can put on stage that works as a nice prop, but also functions as an actual chair for people to sit on for having dialogue and communicating through our Q&As.
With a lot of the fabrication stuff I try to do, I try to hide the fabrication methodology and just focus on the overall look. Okay. So by hiding hardware, by hiding screw heads, that kind of thing, hiding joints, a lot of that goes towards the direction of hiding the work that goes into the fabrication and just focusing on the aesthetics of the end result. So with a alternate idea brought to mind, there is an iconic bench from Herman Miller called the Nielsen Platform Bench. And I really love its slat wood design, and I think that look, that aesthetic will go a long way and apply well to this bench that we're working on, these two chairs for the conference. So here in the false color view of the design I had in mind, these tan elements here, these are all going to be the independent slat layers that are made up with these component layers. However, these two yellow layers, about 2/3 on the front and back of the bench, are going to be made out of solid sheets. From the outside of the bench, they will look just like the component layers with the individual slats. But the entirety of the structure is solid, providing a lot more structural rigidity to prevent collapse in the up-down direction. So one of the cool things about what I have in mind for the construction of these chairs is the front and the back are mirrored, and the entire construction is symmetrical. So while we have one chair facing one direction and the other facing the opposite direction, they are made in the exact same way. They're just simply rotated. And there are removable feet so that the undersides are not damaged if we need to rotate one way or the other. If the face get damaged, we can always like completely flip the chair around. Okay. So again, this goes a long way to helping make sure these are usable year to year. Okay. And preventing damage and finding different ways to fix things that may occur over time. Okay. But because of how this is constructed, there is a cavity on the back of the chair because there's no need to have that acrylic face layer, the diffusion layer. On both sides, right. So you actually have the ability to inset some lights in the back of the chair so you don't see them from the audience point of view, okay, but it can cast light up onto the back wall. Okay, yeah, so we can use the inside of it to maybe hide some things that we could, okay, that's cool, that's good to know. Hey there. Hey. Whoa. This place is sweet. So this is it? Yep, this is the first chair. Everything pops off, so it is easily to be serviced. Everything's pretty strong and robust, so I don't feel any concerns about adding weight to the front of the chair here. Nice. So is this like metal here? Yeah, this is called ACM, so it's aluminum composite material. It's aluminum skin on top and bottom, then there's a polyethylene core. So it's a really easy material to work with, but you can get it in a lot of different nice finishes. The part that's visible from the outside of the chair is a nice glossy black. So that will help prevent the light from coming through the slats in this light cabinet section. And the rest of the slats are going to remain open, so you can kind of see through the chair, get a sense of how it was constructed. And it also raises the question of where the supports are. Those will turn on in a second. And these are all F-Cob style white LEDs in 4000K. And whenever you have the acrylic diffusion panel on the front here, the light diffuses pretty nicely. Nice. Now, are those dimmable? Yes. Okay. Oh wow. Yeah, it looks super uniform. Yep, so the nice part is if anything needs to be tweaked, adjusted, or changed in the future, it's very easy to do so. This whole thing will come apart. Yeah, so these are just bolted on. So you can actually use a reverse clamp, a lifting clamp, and it will separate these sections so you can add, you know, paneling behind the slats if you wanted to add diffusion lighting inside. When it's on stage, I want it to have a presence. Like if it was too small, it would look like it wasn't. Yeah, absolutely. So I think this should be a good size for having on stage, two people sitting across from each other. I was afraid when I originally sent the design that if
if somebody put their weight
Yeah.
here with that gap there. Like I thought maybe you would have to build something to.
Yeah, that was an initial idea I had, was to run maybe a 1/4 inch clear acrylic plate through there just to give it something to collapse into. But honestly, it didn't end up even needing to be necessary.
Yeah, I like that you can kind of put a foot up on here too, so you could almost just sit like this, face the crowd. The other person could sit there, and it's big. It's bigger than like a typical seated chair, but it feels comfortable.
Yeah, and kind
it
of is like the original design intent of going with that Nelson style bench. As far as weight and collapsing in the front goes with the cantilever design, it's all very strong. So I could jump up and down on this thing, and it's not going to have any sort of collapse.
Wow.
Occurring. No deflection or compression occurring at all, as far as I can see.
When you get at it from this angle, it almost looks, well, I mean, it is hollow, but
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't see the supports. Like what is holding this together? That was the moment for me that made me realize I wanted to leave that open. It's rocking a whole lot right now because
The floor.
the foot isn't. I need to sand down one of the faces. It's not completely up against the slats, but that's an easy enough fix.
You nailed it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy with it.
Cool. It's so cool. So,
Well, now that we have the first one done here, I think it's a good time for me to be able to kind of go through the process with you.
Okay.
And show you some of the steps involved that got me from full sheets of plywood to this.
let's do it.
All right. The thing we're going to cut now is going to be the face trim of the chair. So those are going to be made out of one solid piece, whereas the rest of the layers were made out of individual slats that were put together. It's a good mixture of making sure the visible faces are contiguous, no seams, no joints, and strong, but also material efficiency. So it's finding the balancing game between those two. All right, so that's done. Now we can probably go ahead and put the first panel up here and get it cut out.
So you're pre-cutting the one side, you're just cutting it and then you put it in the jig.
Yeah, so one side's, that doesn't, these are long anyways, so I can just indiscriminately cut off all the 45s. Honestly, whenever I was doing them in production, I did like 4 at a time. And stacking it gives you a cleaner edge on the top as well, because there's less tear out.
Right, yeah.
These are reference blocks that allow me to cut each of the slats for the slat layers at their appropriate length. Having a hard stop like this ensures that every piece comes out at a consistent length and requires the least amount of, sneaking up on the line, as they say. So I just slide it till it hits, and I know that's going to be accurate. All right.
Going in here?
Yeah, you can set those on the CNC. Yeah, this is a frame that allows me to consistently place every piece across every layer. That way, whenever the final assembly comes around, I won't find that one of them is an 1/8 of an inch out. It just makes it so that whenever I do the final sanding of all the layers to make them come across really smoothly, I'm not taking more out of one layer than another. If I need to make one piece fit into another piece, rather than measuring the first piece and then cutting the second piece, I will use that piece as the measure. I will scribe that line where it needs to go, because that has the fewest degrees of separation from the part you're trying to interact with. So you're using the part to define where the cut needs to go for it to fit.
You'd probably have 1 million of those you had to make too.
Yeah. Oops. Yeah, let's get flushed up into the corner like that. So these nails are 1.5 inches, and the 2 layers of plywood are also 1.5 inches. And the nail goes a little bit farther than the surface, so I have to angle them so that the diagonal is shorter.
But it also keeps it
Coming out of
Yeah,
out
exactly.
as
So
easily. Yeah, it won't pull straight out.
dual factor kind of thing there.
Yeah. Grind those puppies off.
Yep, just to get some of the ones that poke, these straight ones here. You can't, there's not a lot of area to go make these diagonal. Like I said, these are 1.5 nails, and I have it driving at full depth. So for these other layers, I can just drive them straight down, and it will be enough to tack.
It's the glue that really holds it together, though, right?
the glue is stronger than the wood.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So now that I have these slat layers finished up independently, this is the general assembly of each of the slat layers. You just keep stacking them up like this, and you get a nice layered effect that comes together nicely. And then the rough edges between the layers just get sanded out smooth.
Yeah.
So because I took a little extra time in that step, this step goes by very quickly. I mean, you can already tell with even just 2 layers, it's like flexible there in the middle still, but I mean, it's self-supporting on its own, even with just 2 layers.
Yeah.
So the main construction of the chair is going to be composed of slats made to look like this at different angles and different lengths.
Okay.
Whenever these come together, using the frame so that they're all consistent, they end up looking like this. This is a assembly of 2 of the slat layers with their spacers in place. Now these on their own will have a combined strength, but they're still relatively weak. So in order to have more strength, there are going to be 2 of these flange layers here that go between the 3 independent sections of the slat layers. This, because it's solid, provides a lot of strength, specifically in the corners, that prevents this kind of flex from happening.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
So whenever you think about these being attached directly through these corners, where on the back side you can see how much deflection there is, or compression rather. You can see how much that moves.
Yeah.
But whenever they're clamped together, you can't compress this back flange. So this is where I determine the most strength will come from. And the way these are attached are through bolt holes that are bolted together through the 2 sections of the component layers. And there are also 1/4 inch rods which are registered across all 3 pieces. So these get hammered into the corners, and it goes all the way through this. There's holes drilled in there that match up on both sides. So everything comes together, they're aligned and they're compressed together with the bolts, and that borrowed strength gets transferred through the whole chair.
This is all cut out with the CNC process as well.
Yes, and
so
this
everything lines up perfectly.
Yeah, so I'm able to do peck drilling for 1/4 inch holes, normal pockets. This is just a follow a line at a certain depth, but the tricky thing about this is it was a 2-sided operation because you got to get the line on the other side as well. So it helps prevent quite as much light from traveling through. So as these go through, rather than requiring them to be dead accurate across the entire surface on every face, having them slightly inset into the groove like this gives me a little bit of a tolerance, where even if something is off, visually it won't look off.
And then the LEDs fit flush on the face of this.
Yeah, so
They
there's
just
3
mount right
strips. There's one that goes here, one in the center, and then one on the outside perimeter, and that's kind of mirrored across the 3 legs. And I found that that is more than enough to have a good amount of illumination with even diffusion, so you don't have any hot spots.
Nice.
So I actually made these holes oversized. I could have done both the compressive strength and the alignment using the bolt, but I wanted to have some tolerance to allow for movement. So these holes are oversized, so the bolts only provide the strength of holding things together, and these pins are what keeps everything aligned. These are easier to modify if something is misaligned. So this is an issue that will only come up near the very end of the fabrication process. So you really want to do what you can to identify those kinds of problems early and counteract them. These get applied separately. So on the back of these layers, you'll have one of these in the corner, and that hole will line up with this one.
The pin.
So the pin will go through that on both sides, and then the bolt will pass through this opening and capture
Thread into there.
the thread bolts on both layers.